Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Baby Playbook Podcast. It's so good to have your company on the podcast today. And I hope that you've really been enjoying a little bit of a theme that we've had across the last month, where we've really been honing in on childcare and care for your baby, and really trying to figure out how to feel safe and happy and aligned with, the childcare that you choose for your child. This all stemmed from, of course, it hasn't been the best of years for childcare across Australia. There's been a couple of incidents coming through, especially in the news, that have made parents like myself as well just a little bit nervous and a little bit more, questionable on, where we're sending our kids and the policies that within those centres, and just asking a little bit, a few more questions than I think we initially at the start, because of course we all want what's best for our child, and starting to think about childcare for your child, especially when they're just like a little baby at the start, is really overwhelming as well. So I wanted to help with that process. We've covered a lot in the last few weeks. We've covered, the anxiety that parents can have around, getting onto this journey of finding childcare. We've also covered how to find a great childcare, what questions to ask, what a wait list's like, what options are there out there for you, some more flexible options as well. All my tips and tricks as somebody who has changed childcares a couple of times now for her kids. But today I really wanted to focus in on childcare educators, because of course these are the people that are going to be part of your baby's life or your toddler's life. And they've really become, really familiar with your family. And you put a lot of trust in them. You're not there, of course, during the day when you're sending your baby to a traditional childcare sense. So it's really important to feel, a connection with those people and to develop some sort of a relationship yourself, so that you feel really trustworthy in their relationship with your child as well. So I'm really excited to welcome Michelle Danguilan on the podcast today. She has had an incredible 14 years in the early learning sector. So over a decade of knowing not just kind of how it's changed over time, but also how it's developed over time and improved, and all of the things that have kind of come through, especially in the last few years. I think it's been quite a dynamic shift for childcare. Thank you so much for your time today, Michelle.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope that by me being a guest on your podcast, I'm able to answer some questions, hopefully give some families a sense of comfort and in knowing that there are centers out there that are great, that have amazing educators, and that you can feel safe in bringing your child there. There are some key things to look out for. I would call them green flags when finding a center, and how you can develop that connection with your center to ensure safety for you as a parent, as well as safety for your child. Yeah, in terms of child safety, another buzzword of ours within our space is active supervision or supervision. However, safety is not always about just adults seeing children and supervising children. It's about connecting with them and making them feel safe. So we do that through building that relationship, meeting them where they're at, validating their feelings when they're upset, and also celebrating just the diversity within the room. You've got some that are really quiet. You've got some that are really loud, super social, likes to be cheeky. That's part of their personality. And you've got those who are just observers and like to just be in the background, and actually just respecting and celebrating them for who they are. And so that really adds to the safety of the child, and being able to go to the family at the end of the day and giving them that update, because the parent will know when an educator knows exactly who their child is. So you've got your classic educator that will say they've had a great day, but doesn't really get into the detail of how their day is. So a really good feedback would be, they've had a great day. It's okay to start off with that, but really thinking about, Nicolina just wanted to sort of stand back and observe what was going on in her environment, but I could see that she was really interested in Play-Doh. She was a bit reluctant at first, but when I invited her to come over, she came and sat with me quietly, and she just wanted to be there and play on her own. She did get overwhelmed when others would approach her. However, when I noticed that that would happen, I just gently kind of just came, like sat beside her and made sure that she felt safe. Things like that, like a little bit more detailed, but it's not, you're not overdoing it. That really helps families feel safe as well. And it really showcases how well you know the child when you give them that kind of feedback. So it's all about laying that foundation of relationship with the child and the family. And when experiences and activities are planned through getting to know the child, it does lay that foundation for the next thing.
And the other thing that we're highlighting today is as well is that it is not necessarily about just the relationship with the child, but also your relationship with parents as well, because of course, we would like to, feel like we're also quite close and we know our educators quite well because they are, watching our children for quite a long time. They're developing relationships with our children. So can you give a little bit of advice on how to encourage parents to form a relationship with educators at the centre and how to really go about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, as an educator, I do like to start that, because it can be a little bit daunting for families to trust a stranger essentially with their child. So it really is important for the educator who's inviting the family in to start that. So whether it's having things in place already to get things going. So a lot of centers do like an all about me form, um, which can feel very much like you're just filling a form. So it really depends on the educator and how they take that on. So really asking and having that conversation right from the get go. I see in your All About Me form that you celebrate, a range of celebrations throughout the year. Would you be happy for us to celebrate so and so's birthday with, a hat? Because sometimes asking those questions can allow you to get to know, like, oh, I'm sorry, like we don't like to make a big deal out of celebrations, and you have to respect that. And also on the flip side, it's like, oh my goodness, like the house, like that's so special. Thank you for asking, and I'd love to do that. And so really starting that relationship with families, initiating that relationship with families, asking those questions, and once you break open, just like break the ice with the relation with the parents, it's then a flow on effect. Every single day that you might go, how was the weekend? And they might share a little bit about something. They might, have a bit of a sigh, like, my child didn't get a great sleep last night. You know what I mean? And then we can offer how we can support that. Sometimes little bits and pieces that's shared with us that can seem like, they're just venting or just like having a bit of a sigh. You'll be surprised how much we can help with that. Like, oh, don't worry, we'll set up a bed or like a quiet area to make sure that if we see any signs and signals of your child being upset, or if, some, like there's been a time when, a family pet has passed away and that's their first experience with grief. And, us as a center, we can actually go, you know what, we can talk about that here and see how they go, or not. Some parents might go, please don't mention it, because otherwise it's going to be really upsetting for them. But like being that, adapting to what the need is, and getting the cue from the parents to go like, are we, what would you like us to do? I can offer a few recommendations, but I'll always take the lead from the parent, because it's always about respecting their values, their beliefs, and their way of wanting to raise their child and having that respect for them.
I guess the important point in just with the parent and educator relationship is that it's also up to us as parents to be quite open. I think that if we are kind of just in a bit of a more transactional, relationship with the center, if we're just coming and going and just doing drop off, we need to really put ourselves out there as well and give you guys the chance to get to know the family and get to know what's important to us. And as you said, just those little tidbits that could help, what's going on at the moment. It could actually help you guys in identifying if our child is a little bit more nervous as usual, or a little sadder than usual, or a little more tired than usual. So I think that's really important, because I think sometimes as parents we tend to like disconnect childcare and home, whereas like this is just their one life, right? Like this is your child's one life, and every day might be different, but as much as we can like integrate the both of them together, it'll only be beneficial for us and for them. I did want to touch on as well then, working with educators to get your child quite comfortable at childcare, because that can be a really daunting experience for parents and also the child. It is a new place. It is new people. It's getting to know a new environment. What are your kind of main tips, if I can get from you, in how parents and educators can work together to ensure like a more seamless transition? I assume one of those is obviously, keeping that conversation open and honest.
Also, a key thing which is very difficult but necessary, and I understand the difficulty of it, particularly now, would be trust. Like really trusting your educators. And it's not helping that the media coverage at the moment is highlighting a reason for families to distrust. And so almost what I'm feeling at the moment, it was, we're constantly trying to prove, no, you can trust us, which it adds to the time in settling the child, because we're constantly like, we know our stuff. we know what to do. So please trust us that when we say, it's really important that when you're saying goodbye to little Nicolina, it has to be quick. You know what I mean? It can't be prolonged, because the longer you stay, the more difficult it will be to separate. And so that's a really hard thing for a parent, especially for a first time parent dropping off a child to daycare for the first time, because again, you're dropping them off to people like that you've never met. And so it's kind of taking that leap of faith in those educators that they're going to keep that child safe, and that they're going to have some things prepared to make the child feel at ease, and that will call parent if we can't get them to settle. Like, we won't let them cry it out. If they're crying for a long period of time, that's a sign that, okay, not today. Today's not the day that we're going to have a long day. We're going to call mom. We're going to get mom to pick her up. And we're going to try again tomorrow, and we're going to try different things, and perhaps the following day they can bring something else that will add to that sense of comfort. So it's that trust, and it's a collaboration as well. So I might say, please bring a security toy tomorrow, but they might say, can we bring a dummy as well? Yes, that's okay. And that's different places have different opinions on that. But for me personally, I do believe that we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that child feels comforted. And then, we'll work on the weaning of dummy and all of that kind of stuff later on. But the very, very beginning of the journey is always making sure that child feels safe and comforted in their new space. Yeah.
And then, of course, like those check-ins at the end of the day and getting a little bit of information on like how the day went, and if there's anything that we can do moving at the other thing I wanted to ask you is there anything that we can do at home to help with that? So like conversations that we can have, obviously this is with older kids, but conversations that we can have with the kids at home to prepare them for, the night before it's a daycare day, if we know that they get quite nervous about it. Or I know when my kids were quite young and we were starting daycare, one of the daycare teachers suggested that like I print out photos of some of the carers, because then they can get familiar with their faces and like recognize them better. Do you have any of those smaller tips on how we can bring that into the home as well?
Absolutely. Most centers now use an app. So, and they'll send through daily journals and daily reflections. It's really, really important that we, like, we don't just look at that as a parent, that we actually, maybe during bedtime in lieu of a story time, or, after a story time, like what did we do today at school? And, going through the photos, um, asking, oh, is that your best friend? Oh, that's Miss Nicolina, or that's Miss Michelle. What did you guys do today? And what kind of games did you play? What was the best part of your day? And yes, that can be for older children, but you'll be surprised. Some younger children who are nonverbal recognize themselves on devices now, and they might not be able to say much, but they can point and touch, and they get very excited, and you can see it in their faces. I know my children who's gone through care as well. As babies, I would show them their own, like what they've done for the day. And even when they couldn't talk, they could already, they'll try to grab the phone off me and point and things like that. So that's also an additional thing that builds on that. And the following day, you can always say, like, I was showing, Nicolina the photos that of what you did yesterday, and she absolutely loved the, that particular activity that you did. And so I think if you do it again in the future, she'd really like that, like really touching base with the teachers and then we get to know, oh, she didn't actually express that when she was here, but she expressed it at home.
Yeah, yeah, and we are told that it's such a crucial time, right, this time. So as parents, we are looking to make sure that, we feel like we've chosen the right place to send our kids, that we're feeling comfortable with it. So I really love all these tips that you have, Michelle, on not just for building a relationship between carer and child, which is, of course, super important, but also parent and child, and then also just family and carer as well. So then everybody's kind of involved in the process. And I guess also families never feeling like they can't ask questions or they can't bring things up or make suggestions or, be open and honest about a struggle that they're having or gather advice from carers, because you guys do spend quite a bit of time with the kids. So you might have a tip or trick that, that we could try at home as well. We do have to wrap up, but I did want to ask, and I'm going to spring this on you a little bit, because as a mum who has done quite a few years of childcare with her kids, one thing that me and my friends always talk about is what is a good daycare teacher gift to give at the end of the year, because we get to the end of the year and these gifts, they become such a thing. You try and find something that's like affordable because you want to get it for every teacher, but something that's really practical for you guys. Please, can you just very quickly let us know if anything is, one, a total waste of money, or two, something like a really cool little gift that you've gotten at the end of the year that you'll never forget?
Look, as an educator as well as a parent, like that is my personal struggle as well. So I can totally relate. However, the ones I've kept are the ones that have been created by children. So like a keyring with their, even if it's just laminated with their drawing on it, I had a preschool group for like 7 years straight. So I got quite a few handmade stuff from preschool children, and, with a little quote on it. So I've kept all of those, even like a card. I've kept some great presents have been like, little vouchers, but that was in a card that was written by children. Like, the voucher lasts for however long until you use it, but the card, I've really treasured. So that doesn't cost much at all, and it's great. Like, I still have all of them. I still look back on them very fondly. And yeah, so the best presents actually don't cost much at all. You probably have all the things at home. So just grab, thicker stock paper and get children to do their little artwork, even toddlers. Those have been the best presents for me. I don't know if that helps, because I feel like
That helps. Yeah.
I do that anyway, but
We
I
need to
still
know these
struggle with the
things
actual
because
present. But yeah, if it comes with that like
yes.
handmade thing from the child, that's the best bit of the present.
Okay,
Absolutely.
great
Yeah.
to know. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing and giving us some insight from this side of the childcare kind of discussion. It's so nice to delve into where you guys come from as educators. And of course, you know, we have so much respect for you guys. I have been so lucky to have some really beautiful educators as part of my boys' life who genuinely are just like so involved and so caring and so helpful. Um, you know, you really have to be quite a special person to be in this job. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you so much. I do, hope I want to to give a huge shout out to all my fellow educators. We are doing it tough out there. While we're all very supportive of, uncovering all the dark sides, but, it is impacting us great educators out there as well. So, if you're a parent, please, just encourage your educators to stick it out. Maybe not stick it out, that's not the right word, but just encourage them and let them know how amazing they are, because that encouragement goes a long way, especially during these times. But yeah, we really like that supportive comment or word from parents always goes a long way with us educators.